New tropical depression forms near the Philippines on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for December 17th. Well, it was a close run thing, but we do have a tropical depression. We've been talking about it for some time near the Philippine Islands. It's been named Kabayan by Pagasa. We're waiting for any naming to occur from the JMA. Of course, they'll only name it if it becomes a tropical storm. Still only 80 tropical cyclones so far this year, that one yet doesn't count. In the Atlantic, no areas of interest, and it's 167 days until the next hurricane season begins, and for some reason there's a little outage there on the GOES imagery. You would see a potent looking system approaching the coast of Florida. It could deliver some severe weather there over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. In the Eastern Pacific, it's similarly uninteresting in the open ocean, 150 days until hurricane season restarts over there. Well, let's move on to some activity then. The Western Pacific, we've got this tropical depression, Kabayan, it's been named. There are warnings in effect as well as it gets close to Mindanao, and an area of interest that we've put down to 20% near the Marshall Islands, very far east near the international date line. We've also scrubbed the area of interest that we had in the Southwest Indian Ocean. Models completely dropped it a couple of days ago and they haven't picked it back up since. So we've given up entirely on that little system there, but you can see some convection associated with it there, but it won't amount to anything. And we've still got the remnants of Jasper, which actually look a little bit better today than they did at the end of yesterday, but it doesn't look like it's going to redevelop in any shape or form, and it certainly isn't helping by remaining inland over northern Queensland. So let's take a look at this Philippine system then. There are Signal 1 warnings for southern Samar, eastern and southern Leyte and the Dinagat Islands, and we also have those same warnings for all of Surigao, northern Davao, Occidental I think it was, most of Agasan and Camiguin. It is 356 kilometers from Caraga, a small village along the coast, 382 from Mati, 388 from Hinatuan further north, 450 from Davao City, and 535 from Surigao City on the northern tip of Mindanao. Let's take a look at satellite imagery of it then, and you can see there it may be partially exposed. It's very hard to tell there. There's certainly a lot of low-level rotation underneath all of that. Clearly there is an element of high wind shear and not very well stacked at all with those mid and higher levels, but certainly it's producing a lot of convection, and that means that it will filter down and become certainly a very wet system as it moves through. Now, be under no illusions, we were never expecting this system to look very good. It was always going to be disorganized, as do almost all storms at this time of year. So we really weren't expecting to see a very finely stacked storm, but what it can do is produce a lot of rainfall and some strong winds as well, which could cause some serious flooding and wind damage over the course of the next couple of days. Now, looking over Australia, and the rain continues along the eastern coast near where Jasper initially made landfall several days ago now. Innisfail and Cairns particularly were concerned about even more rain falling over that area, which could still amount to extremely high values even looking forward, never mind anything that's already occurred. The western side is very bereft of any rainfall, so some of those locations along the Gulf of Carpentaria coast, like Burketown further west and towards Mornington Island, they're not going to get much rain at all. Further east though, look at the radar picture there, persistent, very heavy rainfall in the Cairns region and down to Innisfail. Sea surface temperatures remain pretty decent in some parts of the eastern Pacific, but certainly over the high seas it's really fallen away, but still one or two spots of 30 degrees Celsius. In the Atlantic, really falling away there as well, and that shows you why that system will not be tropical near Florida. Those temperatures way below the threshold. In the western Pacific, it's still looking decent in the lower latitudes, and of course where this depression is right now, it's around 29, maybe even pushing 30 degrees Celsius until it moves through the Philippines, but it will drop a little bit. Bay of Bengal only warm further east, but still holding on just a little bit towards the west, and the Arabian Sea, its hotspot is further east as well, near the coast of India, 30 to 30 degrees and a little bit more than that in one or two spots. Southwest Indian Ocean looking very good in the Mozambique Channel especially, and also towards Mauritius now, those temperatures reaching 28 degrees Celsius. In the Australian region, extremely warm in the Gulf of Carpentaria. Just look at what could have been if Jasper continued through there. It would have really made the most of those sea surface temperatures, but fate decided it would turn around and it drowned. It's gone. It is going. Nearly gone. In the South Pacific, well, there it is right now. Looking at Fiji, temperatures looking decent there as well. 28 to 29 degrees Celsius off the northernmost island. Same for Vanuatu. Compared to average, it's the South China Sea that's extremely warm compared to normal, as well as the Southwest Indian Ocean, although that's starting to decrease a little bit, but still well above average. The Coral Sea is below average, mainly because of Jasper. Gulf of Carpentaria is not too far from the normal. Still, the El Niño effect is pronounced in the eastern part of the Pacific along the equatorial boundary, and in the Atlantic things are still looking good there compared to normal as well. Southern Hemisphere oceanic heat content is still sizzling around the more northerly regions, but where the main tropical battlefield is, it's going to be further south there, and towards Fiji it's only moderate to high. In the Eastern Pacific, still a little blob remaining there, and in the Western Pacific it is all starting to dissipate there as well. Only a few spots looking good now near the Mariana Islands and on its way towards the Philippines. Well, very little to look at on the computer models tonight, only this in the short range, and this is, of course, is Kabayan's continuation there westwards through the Philippine Islands, all of the Visayas region really, and onto Palawan, and then towards the southwest it ends up dying off quite quickly. So it's going to be disorganized for the whole period, but there will be strong winds, probably for Bohol, for Leyte, for Cebu, for northern Negros, and for a large part of Panay, and even for possibly the northern part of Palawan as well, before it eventually dies off. Looking at rainfall expectations over the next few days, and whilst Jasper is dwindling to almost nothingness already at this point, it doesn't look like it will regenerate at any rate. It is still producing a high amount of rainfall, even more than what Kabayan is going to produce over the Philippines over the next 7-day period. Most of that 7 days is actually really 3 days. We're looking at 20 or more inches there in the Innisfail Cairns area. That's 500 millimeters, and possibly even higher in some localized areas there along the coast. Further north near the top end, the far north Queensland region, getting towards 9 inches, that's over 200 millimeters. I'm looking at the Philippines now, northern Mindanao getting close to 19 inches, that's nearly 500 millimeters, and in some other locations there around Cebu, Bohol, and central Negros Island there, 6 inches, that's 150 millimeters. In the longer range, this is moderate range, day 5 to 10. We're looking at this potential cyclone in the Bay of Bengal. Will it throw up that late season surprise? The GFS has been itching for something to happen here for quite a while, and there it does become a substantial cyclone there, at least category 1, maybe category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and that's over the Christmas period as well, moving towards the west slowly for a time, and really undecided about where it's going to be heading. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where we have all of our usual items as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request at any time, even over Christmas. You can also find our Still Waiting for Hone t-shirts available on there as well. Fantastic. In the Scilly range then, the continuation of that cyclone piles into Sri Lanka around the 27th, 28th, and then on to southern India. But of course this is very low confidence at this point. The system's formation, if it even does so, will be more than 5 days out, so I wouldn't put any faith on this happening yet at all. If those who are wondering why we didn't show Jasper's wind forecast, well, there's really not much to look at there at all, so we've skipped it tonight. Well, on this day in 1944, December 17th, a very powerful typhoon, Cobra, It's his popular name, although I've recently been told that it was originally called Franny at the time, and it was only popularized the name Cobra in the late 1960s. Now, the US fleet were passing through that area, of course, in the height of World War II, and this storm caused significant damage to several of their vessels and caused quite a few fatalities in the process as well. Probably one of the biggest US naval losses to do with a typhoon or a cyclone around the world. Back to today, and that was distant past. The next name in the Atlantic hurricane season, or not hurricane season, but if a storm formed this year still, it will be Vince. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Selma, and in the Central Pacific, it can form at any time, but the next name is Hone. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Jelawat, that's still the same next year as well, and in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Remal. 80 storms so far in 2023, maybe about to get another one in the Western Pacific. In the Southern Hemisphere though, the next name now in the Australian region is Kirrily, in the Southwest Indian Ocean it's Alvaro, and in the South Pacific it's Nat. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again on Monday night.